Why the most ignorant think they're the smartest? The Dunning-Kruger Effect. Why do some people speak with such confidence, even when they clearly have no idea what they're talking about? Why is it that those who know the least often think they know the most? And why do the most knowledgeable doubt themselves the most? The answer lies in one of the most unsettling psychological phenomena of our time, the Dunning-Kruger Effect. What is the Dunning-Kruger Effect? In 1999, psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger conducted a study at Cornell University. Their conclusion was as disturbing as it was revealing. The less someone knows, the more likely they are to overestimate their abilities. And the more someone actually knows, the more they become aware of their limitations. In other words, the ignorant are confident, the intelligent are cautious. The illusion of knowledge. Participants in the study were asked to rate their skills in logic, grammar, and reasoning. Then they were tested. The results? Those who scored the worst believed they had performed above average, and those who scored the best assumed they had done poorly. A strange paradox. The less you know, the more certain you become, and the more you know, the more you see how little you actually understand. Why ignorance hides itself. Here's the trap. To realize you're wrong, you need to have a certain level of knowledge already. But those who lack that knowledge don't even know what they're missing. They can't recognize their mistakes because they lack the tools to see them. So they assume they're right, and they assume everyone else is wrong. It's not arrogance by choice, it's ignorance in action. Why the loudest voices dominate. In conversations, in debates, and especially online, it's often not the smartest person who dominates. It's the most confident one. Certainty appears like truth. Confidence feels like competence. But neither is necessarily real. Admitting doubt takes strength. Speaking with nuance takes maturity. And being quiet doesn't mean you're wrong. It may mean you're thinking. The trap of self-delusion. The Dunning-Kruger effect creates a vicious cycle. Low ability, overconfidence, rejection of feedback, reinforced ego, no growth. And the longer it continues, the harder it becomes to escape. Those affected feel superior to others, not because they are, but because they have no idea how far off they really are. What about the truly intelligent? The more someone understands, the more they realize how complex things truly are. They begin to say, "It depends. I might be wrong. I need to learn more." This isn't weakness, this is wisdom. It's what separates confidence from clarity. When confidence becomes dangerous, we've seen that the Dunning-Kruger effect leads people to overestimate themselves. But what happens when those same people start gaining influence? That's when ignorance becomes dangerous, not just for the individual, but for everyone around them. Because confidence, even when it's baseless, is convincing. And when repeated often enough, an illusion can begin to feel like truth. In society, loud wins over wise, in debates, on social media, in companies, and even in politics. It's often not the most informed voice that rises to the top. It's the loudest, the most confident, the one offering the simplest answers. Certainty is seductive. It feels safe. It makes people feel like someone has control. But real knowledge isn't simple. It's messy. It requires nuance, doubt, and ongoing questioning. Those who offer easy answers to complex problems are often the ones who don't understand the problems at all. The illusion that spreads. The problem with the Dunning-Kruger effect is not just that individuals fall into it, but that it's contagious. When someone speaks with confidence, others follow, even if that person is completely wrong. Why? Because people crave clarity. They want direction, and they trust certainty. Meanwhile, the quiet thinkers, those who hesitate, who reflect, who analyze, go unnoticed. The trap deepens. This creates an upside-down world. The most competent people doubt themselves, and the least competent feel sure of everything. Worse, those stuck in the illusion reject any challenge to their beliefs. They see disagreement not as a path to truth, but as a personal attack. and so they defend their ignorance, aggressively, loudly, blindly. This is how echo chambers form, where everyone is confident and no one is learning. Why this affects all of us. You may think, this only happens to others, but the Dunning-Kruger effect is a bias, and no one is immune to bias. Even the smartest minds can fall into the trap of thinking they understand something they don't. The difference is, the wise remain open to being wrong. They invite correction, they listen, they ask, and in doing so, they continue to grow. When the illusion shapes our daily lives, the Dunning-Kruger effect doesn't just show up in debates or online, it creeps into everyday life. At school, at work, in relationships. Let's start with school. Some students speak up with boldness, even when their answers are wrong. Others, quiet, thoughtful, accurate, stay silent. Why? Because confidence is rewarded more than accuracy. A child who sounds sure is praised, while a child who hesitates is often overlooked. This teaches something dangerous. That sounding right matters more than being right. The workplace, confidence over competence. In adult life, this pattern continues. At work, the loudest voices often get promoted. Those who speak up, regardless of whether they're right, get noticed. Meanwhile, the observers, the cautious thinkers, those who take time to analyze, are often ignored. This is what some call the confidence trap. It rewards those who know little and punishes those who think deeply. In theory, truth should rise to the surface. But in practice, people often don't see the truth. They see the performance of certainty. The illusion becomes reality. Here's where it gets darker. When people are praised for being confident, they become more confident, even if they're wrong. This praise reinforces the illusion. The illusion earns social approval, and social approval becomes perceived intelligence. The truly thoughtful grow silent, not because they lack insight, but because they're tired of shouting into the void. This creates an unspoken rule that speaking carefully is weakness, and speaking confidently, no matter what, is strength. But this is backwards, and we all feel it. In our relationships, in personal life, it shows up like this: a friend who always has an answer, but never asks questions. A partner who won't admit when they're wrong. A coworker who acts like an expert on everything. In those moments, we feel it. The weight of false certainty. It's frustrating, but it's also isolating. And if we're not careful, we begin to mirror it. We pretend to know. We stop asking. We start performing. The path forward. So, what's the solution? It begins with self-awareness. Not arrogance, not judgment, just honest reflection. Am I as informed as I think I am? Have I challenged my own beliefs lately? When was the last time I said, I don't know? Humility is not weakness, it's clarity, it's strength. And in a world that rewards noise, silence, grounded in truth, becomes revolutionary. How to break free from the illusion. We've explored the illusion of confidence, the silence of wisdom, and the societal traps that reward the wrong things. Now, one question remains. What can we actually do about it? How do we protect ourselves from this illusion without falling into another? Because there's a hidden danger. Once you understand the Dunning-Kruger effect, it's easy to turn it into a weapon, to look down on others, to assume you're the exception, to believe, I see the illusion, therefore I'm smarter than the rest. But that, too, is a trap. No one is immune. The truth is, we're all vulnerable. No matter how educated, thoughtful, or self-aware you are, you will still have blind spots. There will always be something you don't know, something you think you understand, but don't. The real difference isn't in who has blind spots, but in who is willing to look for them. Those who are truly wise don't claim to be. They ask, they listen, they pause. Humility as intelligence. Humility is not modesty. It's not self-doubt. It's clarity. It's the quiet voice that says, maybe I'm wrong, or let me hear more before I decide. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't interrupt. It doesn't shout. But it's powerful because it creates space. Space for truth, for growth, for something deeper than ego. Real intelligence is not loud. Real intelligence doesn't always look like confidence. It often looks like quiet, like reflection, like the willingness to be uncomfortable. The people you can truly trust are not always the ones who speak the most. They are the ones who ask the most honest questions and are willing to sit in the unknown. That is what separates intelligence from performance. One final question. If you've made it this far, you've already done something rare. You've chosen thought over noise. So ask yourself, quietly, honestly, when was the last time you were wrong? And did you notice? Because that moment, the moment you admit it, might just be the beginning of real wisdom.